Hey there, YouTube. It's True Outlaw Patriot here. Got another tidbit for you. Don't know if you guys been paying attention to the news, especially out in Florida, where once again the left, they're up in arms, bitching and moaning and hollering, and out of all places, of course, over the school system and the new curriculum about teaching some things in Black history. But they'll take one thing. It's beyond me how they'll take a sentence out of X amount of pages and flip it on its ass and make it seem as if, it's racist, is this, is that. Not too long ago, the NAACP was claiming for black people not to visit Florida. Not to go there, don't vacation there, don't move there. But yet they keep their asses there. And then, the Board of Education, or certain groups, they put this history together so they can implement it into the curriculum. And mind you, there were black people involved, and very predominant, smart scholars, and that's not good enough for the left. And it makes me wonder. It's like, well, you'll see in the video, and it's funny. It's just funny to the point that it's like, what exactly is it that you want? But let's pay attention real quick.
I'm Katie LaGrone. More fallout from Florida's newly adopted education standards for African American history. They include teaching students how some slaves benefited from the skills they learned while enslaved. I spent the day tracking the latest backlash, the state's response, and one lawmaker's call for Florida's education boss to step down.
He's not going to rewrite and redefine black history, not while we're still alive.
Outrage continued Monday over Florida's new standards for teaching black history.
It's insulting, it's demeaning, it should not exist.
The social studies curriculum approved by Florida's Board of Education last week was created for middle schoolers across the state. And while the new guidelines include teaching some of the harsh conditions slaves lived through, it also includes instruction on how slaves developed skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit.
And it's insulting to imply that somehow that we had to be enslaved to get any kind of skills
during a
See, that right there in itself, I mean, obviously this poor woman has no idea what she just said. That makes no sense, what she said, because none of that is true. For her to say that it's insulting, to insinuate that you had to be a slave to get a skill, that's not what the curriculum says. So she obviously didn't read the damn thing. It said that some slaves benefited. They learned some skills when they were slaves. And that in turn, when they were freed, they used it to their benefit. It's not like they went to Job Corps. Being a slave wasn't Job Corps. It's not like you went Job Corps, without knowing anything, and within 6 months you learned how to fucking be a carpenter. No, they're not saying that. What they're saying is that the way things were growing, the way America was being built, black people say that this country was built on the backs of slaves. So if that's what you believe, why do you find it so hard that they learn skills? Make up your fucking mind. Did they help build this country? Because if they did, that means they learned a skill, which means that it's a harsh reality. It's sad. They learned the skill. But at the same time, that's a good thing. It's not like they were a slave and then they were freed from slavery and then they all just, panhandled in the street. That in itself right there would be a tragedy. Unfortunately, they were slaves. That's the bad part about it. But a lot of them were smart enough to say, okay, you know what? You kept me in chains. You made me learn this. Now I'm free. Now I'm going to open up my own fucking business. Now I'm going to own the farm. Now I'm going to be, a blacksmith. Now I'm going to own a store. A lot of these people on the left, they turn everything on its ass big time. But let's listen.
Monday morning Zoom, religious leaders, civil rights activists, and community organizers vowed to fight back through demonstrations, their own history teaching task force, new schools, and a new lawsuit against the state and the governor.
Thank you.
Who, during a presidential campaign stop in Utah over the weekend, appeared to try to distance himself from his home state's latest classroom controversy.
I didn't do it, and I wasn't involved in it.
Before quickly doubling down.
Because I think that they're probably going to show some of the folks that eventually parlayed, being a blacksmith into doing things later in life.
DeSantis's press team also striking back, tweeting out excerpts from a recent ABC News interview with Dr. William.
Now, this was one of the gentlemen that took part in putting this curriculum together. I don't know. That's 5 pictures of the same black man. Let's see what he has to say.
Allen, one of the members who served on Florida's African American History Standards Work Group and helped create the new standards.
It was never said that slavery was beneficial to Africans. What was said, and anyone who reads this will see this with clarity, it is the case that Africans proved resourceful, resilient, and adaptive, and were able to develop skills and aptitudes which served to their benefit, both while enslaved and after enslavement.
And to suggest...
I wonder if they read that part. See, that's the part that they read that they want to flip on its ear saying, what do you mean? They benefited from slavery? Like it was okay to be a slave and learn skills? That we had to be slaves to... in order to learn skills? No. Listen. This is coming from a very educated black man who took part in this. And then they break it down to all the things after enslavement that were achieved by the things that they learned. Now some will say, well, they were forced to learn it. Okay. I get that. But here's the thing. After they were slaves, okay, they took it upon themselves to say, you know what? You had me as a slave. Now I'm going to go utilize this because now I'm free. Would they have preferred that every slave died while they were slaves? Or that every slave was set free with no skills, no nothing? No way to get by? I mean, nobody is okay with the fact that they were slaves. But the left is always talking about we got to teach about all black history all the time, and we got to teach the truth. This is part of the truth. But the truth doesn't fit their narrative of victimhood. They just want black people to think that, you know what, we were just slaves, and by some miraculous way, we went from slavery straight to Barack Obama, straight to Clarence Thomas, and that there was no in-between. Well, there had to be an in-between. Again, slavery is ugly. It's just one of the worst things you could do to somebody on the planet. And mind you, there's still slavery going on to this day in a lot of parts of the world. But in their eyes, it's like, no, you insulted us. That black man that took part in writing this curriculum insulted us. Why? Because he's not crying victimhood? Oh, I'm sorry, but he's got better things to do. Like sit in a fucking office and put his prestigious mind at work and put out meaningful curriculum. It's pathetic.
Somehow that resiliency You can develop resiliency in a million ways. It doesn't have to involve the enslavement of black bodies.
House Minority Leader Fentrice Driscoll now calling for the resignation of Florida's education commissioner, a former Republican senator before Governor DeSantis appointed him education boss.
And what they're suggesting.
You know, that's ridiculous. You just heard the words of a black man who took part in that, in putting this curriculum together. But no, she wants to go after the white man. Instead, you know, if she would have said, I'm pushing for everybody to take part in this to be fired, it would still be an issue in my eyes. But it'd be like, all right, at least she's picking on everybody. But no. She'd rather go after the white guy that DeSantis put in charge. Open your eyes, people. It's such bullshit with people on the left.
Suggesting is that look on the bright side of slavery. Ma'am, there is no bright side.
On Friday, Commissioner Manny Diaz tweeted that Florida is focused on teaching true and accurate African American history. As for calls for his resignation, neither Diaz nor the Department of Education have responded as of Monday afternoon. I'm Katie Lagrone reporting.
You know, it's ridiculous the way they spin everything around. I never thought growing up as a kid that the left would just keep on and on and on and on and on with the victimhood. You know, obviously they're trying to implement more black history into the curriculum. The left is trying to include more victim history into the curriculum, more LGBTQ into the curriculum. Things that a lot of people might get offended by. Well, let me rephrase that. They want to implement their agenda. Let's put it that way. Because learning more about black history, especially positive things, should not be offensive to anybody. People need to know. Because you can't stay in the dark, you know, and for people to think, oh, you know what, they were just slaves and they were treated bad and that was it. Nothing after that, you know, nothing good for them after that happened. No, obviously a lot of good after that happened, you know. But if it doesn't fit their narrative, they want people to keep thinking that they're victims, they're victims, they're victims. You don't really see the left advocating for a broader expansion of history. You know, and I'm not trying to offend anybody, but black people were not the only ones that suffered during that time. The Irish suffered. Let's not forget about the Native Americans. You hardly hear anybody ever talk about them. And I take offense to that because I'm Cherokee Indian. Okay, born and raised in the Bronx. Okay. But it's sad that the way the left and these activist leaders and, you know, Kamala Harris and them, they want to spin everything around, but yet at the same time, they want to implement their own agenda into the schools and force it down everybody's throat. Once again, with the transgender studies, the Marxist studies, you know, the communist studies, the socialist studies, not social studies, the socialist studies. But if it doesn't fit their narrative, they'll go against anybody. They'll go against their own kind. You know, like I always said, Democrats, they eat themselves. I don't know what the gentleman that took part in this curriculum, don't know where he stands politically. Honestly, he probably doesn't stand on either side, just like Thomas Sowell, very educated black man. The Democrats do nothing to like give him a platform at all. Not that he needs it, you know. The man's got a brain that's probably smarter than 1,000 people that you could pick off the street at the same time. But people on the left, they just keep pushing these narratives, trying to spin things around, trying to point the finger and claim victimhood. And it's like, you keep telling the black people they got to be proud. And by right they should. Every race should be proud. But a lot of people on the left, it's like they come up with these narratives so that the African American doesn't feel proud. Let them be proud. Let them know that after slavery, it didn't end for them. Life didn't end for them after slavery. They capitalized, they utilized, they got ahead. Did they learn some of those skills while they were slaves? Yes. Was it a bad thing? In my opinion, no. Being a slave was a bad thing. But many of them were smart enough to say, you know what? I'm going to learn this. I'm going to be good at this. And maybe they were thinking the same. Someday, when these chains are taken off me, I'm going to do something with what I learned. But ignorant minds don't see like that. They don't see outside the box. They don't think outside the box. This is not going to end anytime soon. I mean, it's all over the news. It's all over the internet. And I didn't even know any of this. But it's good to know that it's coming out now. It's almost like it was suppressed, but now it's time for it to come out. And it makes you wonder who suppressed it. And it makes you wonder who's trying to suppress it now. That's the thing. I'm probably going to try to get me a copy of this curriculum and read it for myself. I read some of it online. And I'll be honest, like I said, I learned a lot of things that slaves did for the better after they were set free. You people should look it up too. But anyway, this is True Outlaw Patriot. Please like, comment, subscribe. And as always, stay vigilant, keep praying, and pray for each other. Peace.